Now,
With the testicle.
this area right here is the spermatic cord. The spermatic cord is going to have the muscle, the arteries, the veins, the nerves, and the ductus deferens. Sure. It's going to contain the spermatic artery, the spermatic vein, the nerves, the ductus deferens, which is this little tube. You call that the vas deferens? If somebody has a vasectomy, this is what is clipped, cut, tied, cauterized. So that little piece of plumbing is the one that gets cut. Now, the next thing will contain is the cremaster muscle. See this thing that looks a little bit like the diaphragm did? This is the cremaster. This is an extension of the male's internal oblique muscle. It's going to cause the testes to ascend and descend depending upon what's necessary. It's used for protection and to maintain the temperature of the testes. If the testes gets too warm, obviously this is going to allow it to relax and move away from the body. If it's too cool, it will move upwards. Now, we don't have a scrotum on this. What we do have is this durable flap. This flap is the tunica vaginalis. That's going to be deep to the scrotum. If I pull that away, I can now start to see a C-shaped structure
Epididymis.
called the epididymis. The head, the body, and the tail of the epididymis. The next thing that would happen is the sperm and their nurse cells would travel into another tube. That other tube is known as the ductus deferens. It is going to have a sigmoid pattern in it. It is a separate piece of plumbing. It has to travel up through the inguinal canal. Then the ductus deferens is going to go off, drop down behind the bladder in the male cat, or in any male, okay? Then it's going to enter right above the prostate into the prostatic urethra. Now, obviously, I don't have the rest of him here, so I can't show you everything, but I need to show you the second tunic. This is your first one. This is tunica vaginalis. Here is our head, body, tail of epididymis. This would be our ductus deferens. Now, the tunica albuginea is the deep layer. Can you see the worm-like pattern in it?
Mm-hmm.
This is the tunica albuginea. Albumin is white. Normally there's a white worm-like pattern in it. If you eat egg albumin, what is it?
Egg whites.
Egg white. Albuginia, same deal. So you're going to see another worm-like pattern, but typically that would be white. Okay? Now, in order to produce sperm, as well as testosterone, you have to have seminiferous tubules. That's what these two sections or two halves are. So each of these would be responsible for producing the millions of sperm per hour and per day. Males can reproduce up into their 80s and sometimes 90s. Of course, some of the sperm will be slightly malformed. 20% of the ejaculate, the sperm will have malformations. They might have two tails, or the head is malformed. So obviously that would not be a viable fetus. Now, if we know that there's 700 feet of seminiferous tubule within a human testis, you have to recognize that's one of the reasons why they are able to produce as many as they can. When they're produced, they will travel up the central canal, past the ductus efferens, into the epididymis, where they're going to be stored. So they travel into the head of the epididymis, then they move down to the body, then they move to the tail. Once they get ready to go, they'll move into the ductus deferens. They'll travel up the spermatic cord, up past the inguinal canal, behind the bladder, drop down and enter above the prostate. Okay? So they take an upward and around and down journey. Any questions on this? Yeah.
Did you say the tunica albuginia is deep to the vaginalis, right?
Absolutely.
I couldn't see it from there.
Yeah, okay. So albuginia,
It's the most inner one?
see the pattern on it?
Yep.
If we're tagging this, we're looking for albuginia. If we're on the C-shaped structure, we're looking for the epididymis.
And that tube is called the ductus
And
deferens.
notice if this is tagged, there's already a couple of clip marks in this one. You would say seminiferous tubule. You had a question, Dave.
Yep, the tube, that's the ductus deferens you said? That right there, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Ductus, when you see the cat and the cat is freshly dissected, you will definitely see the sigmoid pattern of the ductus. That's one of the ways that you know it. It's always going to have an S pattern in the ductus. Yeah.
So we're not gonna have that on the practical, we're gonna have the cat?
No, you'll have this. And you'll have that and you'll have the cat. I have to go over some things with the Fluffy, but I have to make sure that I get